ladies and gentlemen. I believe we are now live onto Facebook. It is August the 2nd, and look, it's an absolute delight to be doing the show again. It's been a number of weeks now. I've lost count. And I know I said this last week. We were checking up how many weeks I've been doing the show for continuously. So let me just make something very clear. I can't keep this up. I can't keep doing the show every single week. It's been a great delight, but I'm gonna have to at least go to every fortnight to give myself a bit of a break and give myself an opportunity to relax and enjoy my Sundays. Not that I don't enjoy my Sundays with you all, but you know, there's life beyond this. As I started to do on recent shows, I take a little reflection on the week, you know, and things that I've taken in the week. No, not too long, not to divert from what we're here to really talk about, but just to think about some of the stuff that's come up and understand that some of the stuff that comes up during the week are part and parcel why I began doing this show in the first place. We don't live in isolated bubbles, irrespective of what Boris and crew may would like us to do. We live in a real world where real things are happening. And the two things I want to talk about today come from different sides of the Atlantic, as it were. And first and foremost, I have to make a comment about the young lady in Jamaica who has to go to court so that she can attend, I think it's Kensington Primary School, who are seeking to exclude her from school because of her dreadlocks. Their claim is that they're not so sure about the cleanliness of locks, and they're worried about lice. Now, as you can see, I don't wear dreadlocks. I've never worn dreadlocks. But you know what? That is such a ridiculous statement for some place like Jamaica, of all places, for a school in Jamaica, an institute of education, people who are supposed to have some sort of knowledge about history and about bits and pieces. How can we trust a school with thinking like that to educate our young children? And I think the administrators who have forced the family to bring this case need to strongly think again about what it is they think they're trying to achieve with this ridiculous stance. It is totally ridiculous. It is demeaning and it is insulting. You know, as a friend of mine who's appeared on this show before, Errol said, you know, you use Bob Marley to promote Jamaica, but you hung up on a young girl's locks, and it's just it is impossibly stupid. But just as impossibly stupid is the reaction of some people on this side of the Atlantic to what was a truly, truly beautiful demonstration of Black unity yesterday between Clapham and Brixton, when the annual Emancipation March, circling on a number of items, for example, reparations took place. And it was a beautiful thing to say. And I think probably what made it even more beautiful this year was the absolute demonstration of the youth. You know, if you speak to 100 people in my position who are talking about legacy and about taking the Black struggle in the UK and abroad elsewhere and taking it further, we will always talk about the need for the young people to lead on this. You know, our times are not past, but the young people still have the energy, and they are the ones who inherit what is left when people like myself have moved on. And so it was really nice to see the young people. But I think what was equally amusing was to see the reaction of certain elements of this society who see Black unity as an absolute threat. And I don't knock them for seeing it as a threat, because they should. They need to understand that the moment the Black man unites, and when I say Black man, I mean everybody who is on our side, Black, white, in between, female, male, I don't care. As long as you're on our side, when we unite, then you need to look out, Mr. Racist and Mr. White Supremacist, who think that, you know, you've got this thing going on. So those are my two reflections for the week. Last week, we had the pleasure of having Wayne and Sophia Swaby on our program, and they call themselves the relationships realist. Well, this week, I have a gentleman on the show who is the relationship strategist. So I think we've got a theme going here. And yes, it is a theme. As I said last week, I'm hoping to do a series of shows on the topic of relationships. And that's because I don't just think that stuff like the martyrs yesterday are the only things we can do to improve. I believe our relationships are the cornerstone of strengthening our community. And I'm talking about relationships on every level. So last week and this week, I'm probably going to be talking about, loving relationships between couples, between partners, marriages, relationships in that sense. But I do promise you that I will absolutely be extending this to the relationships we have in families, because I see all of those relationships as core to what we're trying to achieve. Look, I've been chit-chattering now for about 5 minutes, which is very easy for me to do. Very easy for me to get into a quick chat about this sort of stuff because I'm getting so much more comfortable and used to this. But my guest has been patiently waiting. And I've asked him, as I said before, when you're ready, you're going to introduce yourself. And I'd like to welcome you to the show today, Victor Granville.
Hi there, Paul. Thank you for having me on your show. And I'm really happy to be here. Just hoping you can hear me well. And
I can hear you very clearly, sir.
Excellent. So yes, so my name is Victor Granville, and I title myself as the real love strategist. And the reason I do that is because my work is all about how to help people access real love for themselves and to be able to share that love with others. And as opposed to the counterfeit of love that's out there, the subpar experience of out there. And it's about how to move towards that greater, more enriching experience of love. With my clients, what I do is I help people who have childhood wounds, who have childhood traumas, who have experienced different types of upbringing that are still impacting the way in which they do relationships today and affecting their partnering decisions, affecting the way in which they choose partners. And it's also, if you're already in a relationship, my work helps you to move the things out of the way that block deepening intimacy within your existing relationship. And so this is what the work I do. I come from an inside-out approach, which is all about how to learn how to deeply love yourself so that you can actually love others.
Inside-out approach. I can't think of a better place to start. But before we get into the inside-out approach, what brought you into this industry?
So a number of things converge together. So one of them is coming from my own relationships and dysfunctional family. I had to move through a lot of fear and trauma in order to be ready myself for a healthy, loving relationship, and which positions me wonderfully to help others. But also because I believe I have a divine calling in this area, and I'm following that mandate to really be a light and a path to show people how to really access their best selves, how to access the love that is always there for them to have so that they can actually create healthy relationships. Oftentimes, I would lots of people coming to me and asking me many things about the relationships, and I just knew that I had a way with people, had a way with seeing things in a very clear way. And that really put me on a path to deepen my understanding, not just my own personal experience, but professional experience, academic experience. I studied it, and that contributed to what I'm doing today.
So, I've worked in the coaching and mentoring field for a number of years. Never delved into the relationship side of it. I never thought that was somewhere I was qualified to delve into. But there's a theme through what you just said, which follows from the stuff and the work that we've always done, and that's around looking at self first. Talk to us a little bit about why it is so important, especially in terms of relationships, man-woman relationships, why self is so important.
Well, there's many places I can go, but you cannot give to others what you do not have for yourself. And you cannot share love with another person if you are not already filling yourself up with love and taking care of yourself and becoming from a whole place within. Otherwise, what you're going to be sharing is your emptiness, your loneliness, and the void that's within you. So again, I talk about one of the major reasons why relationships break down, why relationships don't work, and it is because people aren't addressing or attending to that relationship with themselves first. And I can say more about that reason why relationships break down.
I'd be interested. I'd be interested in that, and I'm sure our listeners would be interested to know what are the sort of things that anybody else listening, what are the sort of things that we should be addressing about ourselves? What are the things that you found in your practice that seem to, I don't know, 2 or 3 things that pop up very regularly as things that people need to address?
Well, there's a number of ways that we've learned to really abandon ourselves, and this kind of touches into some of the things we might get into a bit later. But there's a number of ways in which we abandon ourselves, which means to not take care of ourselves, to not love ourselves, to reject ourselves. There's a number of ways in which we do that, which become problematic for us in our adult relationships. Now, we learn to do these things as a way to survive some very painful childhood experiences, which is, for me, my work I do is so important that we address the childhood and the early upbringing experiences, because if you don't, then the past will always be encroaching on your present and causing problems. So a couple of the things that we do, in ways in which we abandon ourselves, is we judge ourselves harshly. That's a major one. When we judge ourselves harshly, I'm not good enough, I'm bad, I'm rubbish, I'm not worthy, I'm an idiot, I'm just not intellectual enough, I'm not loving enough, not perfect enough, whatever your judgment is, it creates a deep neediness inside of you, and it doesn't feel good. Self-judgment is a very painful habit that we have learned to do that really crushes the spirit and tanks our energy, tanks our frequency. And whenever we judge ourselves, we make ourselves needy, and needy of approval and needy of others to come and validate us. And that creates problems in relationships. Not only that, there's another one, is we make other people responsible for us, our feelings. We make other people responsible for our feelings of safety, our feelings of self-worth, our feelings of adequacy, our feelings of enoughness. And once we make other people responsible for that, then we have to try and control them in order to get what we think we need from them, which may be approval, which may be love. So these are just a couple. Another one is we avoid our feelings. We turn to addictions, whether those addictions be substances or whether they be process addictions. Process addictions meaning things like I'm addicted to shopping, addicted to watching TV, addicted to relationships, addicted to love, and then you've got your regular ones, which is addicted to substance, alcohol, drugs, and things like. When we turn to these things, these addictive processes and substances, we do it because we are wanting to numb out and not feel our painful feelings. And when we do that, we are not available to ourselves. And when we do that, we're trying to get filled up externally rather than turning around and attending to our own feelings and needs, attending to the relationship we need to cultivate wholesomely with ourselves. And these things create problems in relationships when we don't attend to them.
I'm just going to say wow, yeah, because that makes it easier. So, you're a regular person. You don't have all the insights that someone like Victor Granville has. You're a regular person. You're going through life. You're trying to foster relationships. How do you know? How do you know that really what you need to do is invest in about 50 sessions with Victor? What's the signs we should be looking for? No, let's call it out. What are the sort of things, and I'm assuming that these things repeat themselves. What are the sort of things that those should be the penny drops that we should be listening to?
Well, it's a number of things, and you may not need 50 sessions with me to do it. But
listen, man, I'm trying to fill the bank account here. What's wrong with you? I want my cut.
So, see, you gotta be paying attention to your life, and there's 2 things that happen that make people want to wake up and start doing something to change the narrative. And the first thing is you know, you are going about your life and things are just not working out. You're unhappy, you're feeling low, you're feeling depressed. You might be attracting the same partner, different face, over and over again. You might be experiencing the same relational dynamics, which are toxic, which are unhealthy, which are problematic. You keep going around and around in this hamster wheel. You keep going around repeating the same patterns, seeing the same issues, and you get tired. You think, oh, this is just too much. I can't do this anymore. Why does this keep happening to me? And until you reach that place of that kind of rock bottom place, when you're just fed up and you realize what I'm doing is not working, then you might create an opening where you say, I gotta look for a better way. But, you know, until you get to that place where you want different, you want something different for yourself, when you want to experience more joy, more peace, more harmony in your life, then you can begin to look. Now, you don't have to just wait to hit rock bottom before you decide to make this change. Sometimes you can make change through inspiration. You just, and you're in your place and you're like, you know what? I want more. I want a more deeper and richer experience of life. I want to access more my potential. I want to create wonderful relationships. I just want to grow. And so you don't need to hit rock bottom for it, but people tend to wait till they get there. So my thing is, pay attention to your life, pay attention to what's not working in your mind, pay attention to how you feel, because your feelings indicate the level of joy or not joy you're feeling.
So what I'm looking at here, I'm looking at two sides of the coin. Yeah, and we are talking today very specifically about male female relationships, marriage, you know, dating, whatever it happens to be. And we as adults we tend to fall into one of three camps. And I'm generalizing here, but I want to hear your view on the occupants of those camps. So you've got the occupant who, he or she, they're just going along. If they bump into someone, they meet someone, they'll give it a go. They're not thinking about changing their inner state first. Then you have the other occupant of the camp that says, well, nah, I'm happy being single. And, you know, so many people are articulating that nowadays. I just want to be single. Then there's a third person who says, actually, I want to be in a relationship. Talk to me about that last person, that person who they're driven to be in a relationship and may not be taking time out to look at the signs that say, put the brakes on, analyze yourself first, and do what Victor's talking about. What's the difference in mindset of that person, and probably go to the other extreme, to the person who says, nah, I don't want to be in no relationship, but you're still dating, you're still meeting people. How does that look to you?
Well, the third person you mentioned who wants to get into a relationship, and if I'm hearing you right, they're ready to go into a relationship. Is that what you're saying?
Well, they say they're ready.
They're saying they're ready. Right. Right. Well, I think I can answer it in this way, that there are two main reasons why people get into a relationship, and only one of them is going to be successful or have the potential for success. One is if your intention for being in a relationship is to go in there in order to get someone to love you, in order to get validated, in order to get confirmed that you are okay and that you are worthy, in order to have someone make you happy and make you feel like you are enough and lovable, then you are creating an unhealthy foundation, and you will create an unhealthy relationship. Okay. And then the other reason why you get into a relationship is if you want to come into a relationship to share your love, the love that you already have, that you're taking care of cultivating within yourself and sharing that love. You want to play with somebody, you want to create with somebody, you want to support somebody, you want to be a support for someone, and each person have each other's back and help each other evolve to be who they are supposed to be. To share compassion, to share learning, to share growth. These are the reasons to get into a healthy, loving relationship. In this way, you're not coming into a relationship to get something, you're coming into a relationship to share something, right? And it makes a world of difference. Now, the person who says they want a relationship and get into a relationship, I would have them, first of all, look these two reasons for why they want to get into a relationship, and because that is going to make the difference, the biggest difference of all. Just because you are single does not mean that you are ready for a relationship. Single is a status, but you need to be ready and you need to be available for the relationship, and in order for you to create a healthy one. And again, a lot of people are jumping into relationships without giving it due thought. Many people are spending more time preparing for interviews, preparing for holidays, preparing for a marriage date than they are in preparing for a relationship and what that means and what it requires, and how to choose a healthy partner and how to become healthy themselves. And so there's not enough time spent. So people think, I'm single, I'm free, I can do what I want. Yeah, you can, but just because you can doesn't mean you always should.
Okay,
I
so
hope I answered the question.
Oh, you more than answered the question. Just one quick question, and I think I know the answer, but obviously, you're the expert. So really and truly, if one of the two people getting into this relationship hasn't done that journey, you're in a bit of a loser, aren't you?
Well, not necessarily, because here's the thing is this. You come together at your common level of self-rejection or self-abandonment, or you come together at your common level of self-love or emotional health. See, if you are not taking care of yourself and you're not valuing yourself and you are not filling yourself up with love and attending to your own sense of self-esteem, then what is happening is you will attract somebody else who's also doing the same thing. See, somebody who's loving themselves and valuing themselves won't be attracted to somebody who's not doing that for themselves. They will have compassion for that person, but they will not feel that attraction. Because why would they open themselves up to be in a relationship with somebody that isn't valuing themselves, isn't loving themselves, and take care, trying to make them responsible for their feelings and needs? And so you won't actually attract that person. So what I'm saying is we attract people at our common level of rejection, or we attract people at our common level of emotional health. You will not attract it. So what I'm saying is that you will only attract the relationship that reflects where you already are, and you only attract the relationship that you are already ready for. You cannot attract something beyond the image of your own self-concept. You cannot attract beyond your own work. Why? Because even if you do attract a loving partner and you're not loving yourself, no matter how much loving they give you, you will not let it in. You will not trust it, you will not take it in, it will not go deep enough, and you will end up rejecting it, and you will not keep it, you will not sustain it. And so you cannot hold on to it.
I can only but say preach. There's a friend of mine on Facebook who's convinced I should be a Baptist minister. And, I can feel the spirit, I mean, you know what? Part and parcel of these lives that I've done over the months has been a learning curve for me, and it's been a great privilege to talk to the wide variety of people I've spoken to and really get to suck into their knowledge. But I want to talk to you a little bit about something you mentioned in your bio, which you said to me ahead of the show, and that's about healing your childhood traumas.
Yes, and wounded. Yeah.
Talk to us about that.
Well, many of us grew up in homes where we didn't get the love that we needed. We didn't get the safety we needed, whether that was because we were being abused physically, emotionally, we were being neglected. We just had parents that just didn't know how to love us. Now, this isn't about demonizing, it isn't about blaming parents. This is about understanding that, though, we were kids and we never got the role modeling because our parents never knew who they were, many of them, and they didn't know how, they never had love role model to them, so they couldn't pass it on. So what was passed on was not loving behavior and not loving role modeling. So what happens is, as a child, as you're growing up in that environment and you're not getting the love you need, then you come to certain conclusions, as a child does. A child does not have an adult intellect and cannot say, well, that's mommy's or daddy's stuff, they're just busy, or their things are going on for them, it doesn't matter, it doesn't involve me. No, you're too young for that. So number one is you start to internalize it. So you, as a child, a young child, you make it about you. Oh, I'm not getting the love I need, there must be something wrong with me. I must be unworthy, I must be unimportant, I must be I must be not lovable. I must, whatever it is, you would have concluded certain things about your self-worth. You would have concluded things about relationships, how they work, just based on how you observed your parents do their relationship and what you observed in education and TV, and what you absorbed about relationships. And then you would have absorbed things about other people, how other people are supposed to act. And so that's where you get your love template. You get your blueprint for your self-worth, self-concept, and what relationships are and what they're supposed to be like. So when you're not getting the love you need to get, as a child, you become very creative. You think, well, okay, then there must, if there's something about me that I'm not getting the love I need, then maybe if I do this or do that, or if I say this, and so you start coming up with behaviors, controlling behaviors that we've all learned how to do in order to get the love that we need, in order to feel safe, in order to be seen, to be acknowledged, to be noticed. And those behaviors, if not carried, if not attended to in our adult relationships, then what happens is we reenact and we replay those same behaviors in our present day relationships. Oftentimes we might be trying to get love from a present partner that we never got, the love that we never got from our parents. We're trying to get it in our present partners. So they become like a surrogate for the missed opportunity that we never got in getting love. Sometimes people never got a lot of loving from their parents or from when they're growing up, and so that's an unavailable place where they can't get love. So they find that they're trying to get love from their parents and not getting it, and so they come into their adult relationships and they find that they're attracted constantly to partners who are unavailable, that mirror that same unavailability that was in their childhood. They're now trying to get love from an unavailable person in their present day relationships. And there's a false belief that if I can just get love from somebody who isn't giving it to me freely, then it means that I'm okay. So there's many things that happen in our childhood that shape the way in which we're showing up today. But we are not necessarily defined by our past, and we are not controlled by our past, because today we have a now moment choice and opportunity to do things differently. We don't have to carry on that wounding and that trauma of the past in our present day. Today, as adults, we get to choose and to create a different future for ourselves. We get to be that loving source, that loving presence in our own lives.
If I'm hearing you right, one of the things that you seem to be talking about is about us not saying that's just how I am.
Yes.
Yeah, because very, very, very often people have a way of saying, well, that's how I am. I can't change. It's who I am. You're saying that's not true. You're saying we have a choice.
We have a choice. There's two parts of us, all right? There's two parts of us. There's, if you like, there's our true self, which is who we are in our essence. We're joy, we're open, we're loving, we're free, we're exuberant, we're radiant. We've got all these wonderful qualities. We're compassionate, we're caring, we're all those good things. And then we have another part of us, which is like the ego wounded program part of us, the part of us that learned all these false beliefs, that learned our patterns of protection against pain, that learned our patterns of control to try and get love and approval. And so what people often say is that this is just who I am. They often refer to that part of them, all these protection patterns and controlling patterns, in order to. So if we were to really do some work and start to explore that part of them, they'll see that well, this isn't truly who you are when in this state. This is just a cover up. This is just a protection that you haven't healed yet. And so yeah, it's not just who you are. You got to look at who you are and how you're showing up, and then there's room for you to heal parts of you that aren't working inside your current relationships, and even just in your own relationship with yourself. It's you've got to do the explorative work. Yeah, we've all learned stuff. We've all been conditioned, and anybody that's serious about creating something healthy with themselves and anybody else needs to be willing to jump on this path, this healing path. Again, it's not for everybody, but know that if you're not on this path and your life and your relationships aren't what you want, then you must accept that this isn't going to get any better. If you don't want to look at how you might be causing a lot of your suffering and how you might be causing a lot of your pain in your relationships, especially when you are the common denominator in all the relationships that are happening. You turn around and say relationships don't work and all men or women do this and all that, but you're the common denominator. You must look at who you're being, what type of magnet you're being.
Wow. Okay. I'm gonna take us to left field a little bit and ask you a question. So, you know, we had that movie a couple of years ago. I think it was Think Like a Man or whatever it was, and they talked about the 90-day rule. How does what I'm gonna call early sexual congress affect, if it does at all, the strengthening of a relationship? Is there such a thing as having sex too soon?
Well, I don't subscribe to rules in that respect, but I would offer some guidelines, and I offer this to my clients when they're thinking about this sex in new relationships. And that is, you really want to establish emotional caring and connection before having sex, if you're going to choose to have sex, because two things happen. If there's no emotional caring and the sexual experience isn't great, then the other person may tend to just leave you and walk away. Well, you know, that wasn't great experience. You're obviously not the right partner for me. And then when that person leaves, you may feel hard done by. You may feel rejected and all sorts. But if you've waited and that emotional caring doesn't come, then you haven't lost anything. You haven't given something that's important to you to the other person. You've just taken your time, explored, the emotional connection was there, you haven't had sex, and you can just go on your separate ways. But if you do wait, create that emotional connection, and you have sex from out of that, sex is something that's coming out of your emotional connection, which makes it deep and rich. And then you have a much more fulfilling experience together. So again, that's one part I do tell people to wait until there's a lot of caring, a lot of trust, and a lot of emotional connection before having that sexual experience. Another thing is that sometimes people tend to use sex as a way to create connection, and then that's a problem, because you're now trying to control love through having sex, and that you're already creating a rejecting experience for yourself, because you're saying that love is outside of you and that in order to get it, you've got to control them through sex. And that's not a healthy foundation to try and create a healthy relationship through trying to control the other person to being with you through having sex.
Question number 900. So, and I think one of the people on the call was asking this question, and I'm paraphrasing. Is there such a thing as a soulmate? Is there such a thing as someone who's made for you, or do you adjust and make yourself available, make yourself for someone? Where do you fall on that?
Well, I see it as that there isn't just one person for you, that you can have different partners that you can connect with. Granted, there may not be like a whole host of people that you can connect with on that level, but there's certainly going to be more than one person that you can connect with on that level and choose to be open and available for it. I don't really get into this labeling of soulmate. I just help people to, again, like you said, make sure that their relationship ready, meaning that they're taking care of themselves and being open and available and healthy in themselves so that they can create healthy relationship with somebody else. Yes, once you're doing that, you would have a deep soul level connection with somebody. So that's where I sit on that.
Okay, so you've met someone, you're progressing in the relationship, you're working it through, but you're just not feeling it. The person's enthusiastic, the person's up for it, but you're just not feeling it. You just man up and say, or woman up, as the case may be, nope, this is not for me? Or do you see if you give it a month, give it a week, give it whatever? Is there a time? Is there a time limit that says, well, no, this ain't going to work, or what? Is there a bailout time?
Well, it's one of these things where if you're trying to make somebody else responsible for your happiness, responsible for making you feel good about yourself, making you feel loved, making you feel worthy, and you're expecting that other person to do that for you, then as long as they're doing it right, then you're okay. But then when they're not doing it right, then you blame them for not taking care of you and making you feel loved. And this is unhealthy. You have to take responsibility for these things for yourself. And you won't know what type of relationship you have until you are actually taking care of yourself in the relationship. So it's all well and good saying, oh yeah, I'm in this relationship, they're not making me feel happy, I'm quite bored of them, they're not making me feel fulfilled and all sorts. And there's a lot of displacement of responsibility that you're placing on the other person rather than taking it on for yourself. And so then what happens is you will judge the person as, they're not the right person for me, they didn't do the job right, they didn't love me right. And so then you think you've chosen the wrong partner, you go off and you chose somebody else, and then you recreate the same dynamics and patterns, because no matter who you leave, you're taking you with you. You're taking your patterns, you're taking your beliefs and with you. And so the issue is to look within at this and take responsibility for your feelings and look at what you might be doing, what you might be, how you might be treating yourself in a relationship that doesn't work, that's not working. Now, if you are on this path and you are wanting to grow whilst you're in this relationship, you decide that you want to grow and you want to start taking responsibility for your feelings inside this relationship that you're exploring, and then you notice that the other person isn't opening up in the same way that you are, isn't stepping into this growth path in the way that you are, then, and you're actually taking care of yourself and feeling happy irrespective of what they're doing, then you can say to yourself, right, okay, I'm happy, I'm feeling good, but there's still no connection here. I'm taking care of myself, I'm not making them responsible. Then I can step back and say, right, this isn't the relationship I need because this person isn't available to me in the way that I need. I'm not making them responsible, but they're not available to me in the ways that I need. So there's you can't just take things at face value. I would say, first of all, do some explorative work. Look at how you're showing up in a relationship. Is there anything you're trying to control? Is there any way in which you're making the other person responsible for you? So we'll start there.
I think it's an ongoing theme, and everything you said is about looking within. I was always been taken in by a book that I read many years ago called The 5 Love Languages. What's your thoughts on it? I'm calling you an expert today, and I see by your smile that you've obviously heard or / read it. Yeah. So what's your thoughts on it?
I have heard it's an amazing book. It's come around in my circles all the time. I know it. I've read it. I know the 5 languages. I haven't read all the book, but I know the 5 love languages, and I think it's very powerful. And I think that people would do well to open to learning with the person that they are interested in connecting with, and learning about the ways in which this person likes to receive love. This person likes to, that's what it really is. What it's about. And if it's within your capacity and your willingness to do, then to meet that person in that love language. Another caveat that I put on as well is, and as much as you're trying to speak each other's love language, turn all those love languages around and make sure you're doing those things for yourself as well, and make sure you're loving yourself in those ways that you're trying to provide loving to the other person. And then if you're not loving yourself, as I keep coming back to, if you're not taking responsibility for your feelings and needs, if you're not valuing yourself, then no matter how perfect or wonderful somebody is speaking your love language, it just won't go in. It won't go in. It won't hit inside. You won't be able to take it in because you're not loving yourself. It will be like a bottomless pit, and then you'll be requiring the other person to fill you up and fill you up, and it keeps happening. So then you become addicted to the other person taking care of you because you're not taking care of yourself. And so yes, these are all wonderful principles. Learn each other's language, but most importantly, do love yourself.
Can I just say that your fan club is out in full effect on Facebook? I'm starting to think we should just call this the Victor Granville Show, because it's like you've obviously worked with half of the country, because everybody has good stuff to say. Look, do you, in your practice, is this about working with individuals, or is it about working with couples, or is it both?
It's both, because I work with individuals and I work with couples. And if the couple don't want to work on it, I can work with one person of that couple. Let me just finish that. I can work with one person because a relationship is a system. It's a system, yeah? A relationship system. So that means when one person changes in that system, the whole system changes, all right? And so once I can work with an individual, and if they're already in a relationship or exploring something, when we can look at what's going on for them and what they're doing, what they're not doing, what they're believing, what they're fearing, what they're protecting against, and we can start looking at that and start healing that and start addressing and tending to those things, then we can change the direction of the dynamics of the relationship. Yes, they could get better, and yes, it could not get better, depending on what. But generally, when you're taking care of yourself, sometimes people are inspired by it and they want to take care of themselves too, and then your relationship can survive. Then I work individually with people who are wanting to really be sure about how to attract a healthy, loving relationship. And so that's where I work with people individually, how to ensure that they're choosing a healthy partner by first becoming healthy themselves. A lot of people are looking for the right partner, but they must first become the right partner.
I think that's very powerful, and it's been a very consistent theme in everything you've said so far about being the right person yourself. And I don't even think anybody could argue with you. I'm not even sure where to go next, because you've been so thorough with stuff and so crystal clear. But tell us about some of the more common things that are stopping people from developing into their true self, able to give and receive love, as you put it.
Yeah, again, it's the major ways in which they abandon themselves. So one is they're judging themselves harshly. They're going around and they're judging themselves as not worthy, not enough, that they're bad in some way. And so this makes them very needy and needy of other persons to fill them up and make them feel good about themselves. Other one is that they avoid, they go up into their head and stay up in their head and distracting themselves from their feelings. And you know, unless you're in your body experiencing your feelings, you won't know what's going on for you, what you need, and what you need to do to take care of yourself. And so it's a very self-rejecting experience when you're not living in your body, but living in your head, analyzing in your mind, being busy. Another one is you're turning to addictions, as I said, to numb out painful feelings. You've got to not do that. You've got to learn how to attend to your feelings, which will be loving. And then another one is, again, you are, did I say you're making people responsible for you? Yeah. So these are the main things that people are doing. So there's a lot of story at the top, but then once we get deep, these are the underlying things that are happening, right? Especially in relationships, there's two major fears that people are contending with. Okay, and you see, people fear intimacy, right? And I'll say it like this: if people could guarantee a wonderful experience in being intimate, then there would not be fear of intimacy. But because you can't, and because of where people have come from and the pain and the trauma and the wound they've had, then these two fears that I'm going to tell you now have come about. And many of us have them. The fear of losing yourself in a relationship will stop you from doing many things to create a healthy relationship, and it'll stop you from getting close, opening up your heart, becoming vulnerable, because you fear if you do, you're going to lose yourself and you're going to be engulfed,
You're going
invaded,
to be
taken over,
absorbed by the other person's
absorbed by the other
persona.
person. Exactly.
Yeah.
Then the other one is the fear of rejection. That if I get close to you and I let you in, you're going to see that there's something not great about me, and then you're going to reject me. And so I'm going to keep my heart closed and only show you fringe parts of me. But because you've done that, you're already rejecting yourself. So then you're going to create a rejecting experience with another person. How can you create love and openness when you're rejecting yourself? And so you've got to heal these two main fears that really are activated when someone becomes important to you in a relationship. Because they're not going to come up, they're not going to get triggered when someone's not important to you. But the moment that someone becomes important to you, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be engulfed here, or I'm going to lose myself.
Wow.
Or I'm going to be rejected.
So let me just, because you kind of slipped us past with a few very, very good points. So what you're saying is then those two fears, the fear of losing yourself, yeah, and becoming absorbed into this person's world, or the fear of them getting in and discovering that maybe
fear of rejection, yeah.
that you fear that rejection because of your fears about your personality, yourself, and so on. That all of those things actually just end up in the same place.
They head in the same place, that you won't be able to create a healthy, loving relationship, because your intention here is to protect against being engulfed, or to protect against rejection, or to protect against losing love, or to protect against all types of things. And then as long as you're protecting, your heart is closed, and you need an open heart in order for love to flow and for you to share love and to create a healthy relationship. So if it's more important to you to protect, to stay safe, some false sense of safety, if it's more important to you to get the other person to approve of you, to validate you, to love you, if it's more important to you to protect against not being controlled, engulfed, or to control how someone feels about you, this is too much control going on in a relationship.
Too much too much. Look, I have a couple of questions which I'll try to paraphrase and try to make make it a little bit shorter. So Andrew asks, does intimacy display your vulnerability? Does it drive us to feel vulnerable because we're getting intimate? I guess is what the question he's trying to ask.
With intimacy, you can't have intimacy without vulnerability. You cannot have intimacy without vulnerability. Intimacy is about sharing your heart, sharing emotional space, and obviously also physical space, but not necessarily all the time, but emotional space, which means you need an open heart, and you need to not be having your fears of whatever, fear of being judged, fear of being criticized, because that protects you and closes you off to being vulnerable. Then you have no opening to be intimate.
Another question was about, well, more of a statement from Katharina, saying that many of us, and I guess it's us, we lack emotional intelligence, and that's something that's come up, I would say, pretty recently in the whole world of coaching and mentoring. Emotional intelligence. How does it impact on relationships?
Well, you need it. And again, this is about the fact that we never had the role modeling of how to lovingly be with our deep feelings, how to manage our pain, and we never had the role modeling from parents who knew how to do it for themselves. So how could they pass on that skill and that knowing of how to be with, connect with, and support our own emotions as they come up? We never learned that. What we learned was to avoid our feelings, to shut them down, to run, to hide, to protect, to control. And that means to not acknowledge your emotions. And then when you're not acknowledging yours, you have no way of acknowledging others or being with others' emotional experience. And so that is why today it's important. If you want to create a healthy relationship, not just a relationship, but a healthy one, then you need to set yourself on a growth path of learning about what it means to take care of you, love you, and understand you, and so that you can understand, love, and share your love with others.
But you say that, and of course you're in that business, so you're pretty good at it. But if you're just an average guy, average woman, just going about your day to day, your 20, doing your 9 to 5, your hustle down with work, with kids, with whatever it is, how do you do that?
You got to make time for things. Well, we all make time for things that are important to us, and we all make time for things that we value. So if your relationship is important to you and being in a healthy one, you will make time for it, just as you make time for work and other things that are important to you. We all get to decide what is important to us.
You pause. Sorry. I got to tell you, it sounded like there needed to be something more coming behind that. It's just that, isn't it?
It's just that we all get to decide what is important to us, and we make time for what is important to us. And you've got to prioritize. If you want to be in a juicy relationship, a healthy one, a satisfying one, then you've got to educate yourself about what it means to create that.
Okay, so this is your time for the big advert. So Paul Lawrence wakes up one morning and he realizes that he wants to be in that big, juicy relationship. That's what he wants to do. What does he do? So aside from bring Granville, which is obviously the option that we're voting for today, what do we do?
So you first of all want to care about. So this is what I said. You want to care about how you feel. Very simple, but very powerful. Because if you don't care about how you feel, then you're not going to treat yourself well. And this all begins with treating yourself well. Because how can you treat others well if you are not even treating yourself well? So it's about, so in a very simplistic way, even though it's not, is to first care about how you feel, and then you'll be wanting to make changes to move yourself out of poor feeling states into better feeling states. So that's on an immediate level. Pay attention to how you feel. And of course, educate yourself about relationships. You want to get into a relationship, you really want to do this thing now, start learning about it. Just like we learn about anything that we want to get into or be successful in. But definitely I'll start with care about how you feel, because if you don't, then you're going to treat yourself poorly, and then you're going to likely treat others poorly. Care about how you feel and what your needs are, so that you can actually do something about them. If you don't care about them, then you're not going to do something about them. You're going to make other people responsible for you.
Good. Look, unbelievably, we've only got 7 minutes left. I'm trying to keep the times tight. I told you that we should have thought about doing a 2-parter, but look, it's been absolutely brilliant. And I know what's going to happen. Every week, the people who listen into the show do the very, very same thing. They always ask me to make sure that the person who speaks puts some stuff into the chat so they can contact. And I'll make sure I put my PayPal so I can get 20% of all business that's derived from this. Yeah. I think that's the absolute minimum. But what other projects have you done? I mean, aside from your ongoing work, what other projects do you do?
So right now I'm actually creating a 5-day workshop that's coming up. It's going to be online. Just stay connected to my Facebook profile. I'll start putting out some promotional material around it. It will be a free 5-day workshop, and it's all about how to attract your.
Sorry. Did you just say free?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm just checking to make sure.
Yeah. So this is happening soon. So just stay connected to my Facebook profile, and then you'll see information about that. And then there'll be an opportunity to work more deeply with me throughout the year, if that's inspiring to you, And so that's coming up. There was, I don't know what time you have left.
Keep going, man. Look, I don't pay for the broadcast space, so if we run over, we run over.
Okay, I think there was one question in the comment section I do want to attend to, which was something about what do we do when somebody is breadcrumbing you, and I hear that question a lot in different variations, And the idea of breadcrumbing is, I guess the guy gives you a little bit. I think it was a woman that was asking a question, and it can be either side. It doesn't matter. They're giving you a little bit to keep you interested, but never the whole bread, if you like. It's just the crumb, and then you come along.
Just enough to keep you
Just
interested.
enough to keep you interested. Then you pick up that crumb, and then there's more crumb. You pick up that crumb. You pick up that crumb. That's breadcrumbing, right? And so the only question I have for that, for anybody in that situation, is take your eyes off of the person that's doing the breadcrumbing. That's a distraction. Now ask yourself the question, why are you picking up the breadcrumbs? Then you can do something about that. That puts you in touch with looking at what you believe you deserve, what you want to settle for, and you can explore why you're actually doing that, why you're accepting these crumbs. So a lot of people focus on the other person doing the thing that they think they don't like or is wrong, and hoping that this person will change their behavior and do something differently. But that's just wishful thinking, because we have no control over what other people choose to do. So take back your power and start to ask yourself, well, why am I available for the breadcrumbing?
Damn right.
Why am I here picking up the crumbs? And then you can start doing the work to shift this dynamic if this seems to be happening constantly.
It is all about, we've been talking for just about an hour now, and everything we've been talking about is about your self-esteem and about how you see yourself, how you value yourself. If you're willing to go on picking up breadcrumbs because you think that that's all that's available or that's all you're worth, then you will continue to pick up breadcrumbs and you will hang into relationships which ultimately have no end, because if the person gets comfortable giving you breadcrumbs, then breadcrumbs it will be. Look, Victor, an amazing conversation, an amazing hour. I've certainly, enjoyed it to the amount. When I'm looking at the feedback here, everybody, and I've got friends here who are commenting, some in Jamaica, some in the US, some in Kent, some all over the UK have been commented, and they're really fired up about it. And I can tell you now that you have to. Yeah, I'm going to hold you to this, or I will stalk you and have you done in. You have to put up the details of your event on justtickets.com, because a lot of people who listen to my show are subscribers to the site, and I can guarantee you will have a full room. I don't think you need the show, fair enough, to get a full room, but I'd like my listeners to get that opportunity to certainly book it early days. Any last words, Victor, before we depart and wrap up?
Last words. Okay. If you're living for want to create a healthy, loving relationship, first thing you want to do, in addition to what I've already said, is the first thing, but you want to look at the context of your whole life. What is your vision? Get excited about your life and where it's going, and get excited and be a successful single. Be fulfilled in your single life. Be happy. Take responsibility for being that in yourself. Then look at your values. Look at what's important to you. Then look at your relationship requirements. Then look at your needs and wants. So it's about doing the self-discovery work first, if you can, so that you are then more equipped to know what it is you're looking for and know what it is that you're not willing to tolerate. Rather than trying to fumble your way through, get some good knowledge, some good self-awareness.
Okay, look, ladies and gentlemen, obviously we could keep going for a very long time, but here's the good news. The good news is that in about 2 to 3 hours, I would have downloaded this video. I will upload it to my YouTube channel, Black Guy Speaking, or People Talk with Paul Lawrence. Either one, you can find us on YouTube, and I will nail it up. Now, I have to let you guys know that typically I do disconnect the current live feed when I replace it with the video, because let's be straight, I'm trying to get the YouTube hits up so that we can build the channel into a lot more. There's a lot of videos that are already on the YouTube channel, but before we go, I absolutely have to say a huge thank you, not just to Victor for what was obviously one of our, I'd like to think it's one of our best shows, but also for really getting us in gear after last week's incredible show with Sophia and Wayne. And next week, what we're doing, as I promised, I have found 3 single ladies who are happy to come on the show next week. Gentlemen, I have asked for 3 to 4 single men to come on the week after. Don't show me up. Don't let me have to call you out, because you're always complaining, oh, Paul, you know, they're always talking about single women, but we single men are here. Let's hear from you. I want to hear from you. Let's have this discussion. So next week, we're hoping to have the single ladies, and the week after that, the single men. And then the week after that, I'm going to go into the other aspect of relationships, which is in and around the family relationship. Remember, when we're talking about relationships, we're talking about the holistic view, everything about families, about relationships, not just the romantic type, because if we're going to build a strong community, it's going to be built on a bed of relationships. Victor, huge thanks again. Ladies and gentlemen, it's wonderful for you guys to be here. It's nice and warm outside, so I suggest you all go out and get some sun, or what's left of it. It looks like it's going down a little bit. My name is Paul Lawrence. It's been People Talk again, August 2nd. And before I go, one last thing. Yesterday was the 31st anniversary of me turning up in the UK. Big up to the Lindsay family and to the Trusty family, who made sure that I had a place to stay, to eat food, and looked after me when I turned up in this country. Yeah, it's my show, so I can say this. And these are the people who made me stay here. Big up to Ken Barnes, who introduced me to the 100 Black Men of London. And you all owe a debt of gratitude to a guy named Tony Harrison, who told me to get a Facebook account in the first place, because nobody don't know me, and it'll be important to do that. So that's my journey. Thank you, guys. Thanks for listening.